Hello, you malty mishmashes. It's a malt mention. And a big malt mention credit to Angus E126, introducing Ralphie Review 1031 here in the Bothy, somewhere in the middle of the Irish Sea, with the sound in the background, well, in the near ground, of a popping cork. There we go. This means, for those of you unfamiliar with my channel, that I'm about to review a whisky. And if you're into whisky, if you're into any quality spirits, feel free to subscribe to my channel, because I go into in-depth perspective reviews to help you, if you're buying sipping spirits, to simply get a better experience, to get some idea of what are worth buying, and importantly, what are better value for money. This is actually a very good reason for joining my Patreon channel, which I have. You'll find a link down below. And I provide monthly live streams. In fact, I've got one coming up shortly in which I will be continuing to discuss this whisky, because it's a very interesting whisky worth discussing. But rather than spend time in a 20-minute review for YouTube, my live stream goes on for 2 hours. So I'll be discussing this for about 2 hours, along with my routine question and answers. Excuse me, I'm going to have to move the glass to safety. Right, okay, right, Billy, right, Joe. You and I have got a deal, mate. We've got a deal. You don't tip over my bottles of whiskey. I give you treats, pussy treats, right, pussy treats. There you go. And then once you've finished your treats, you don't give me any more hassle, and you just go away. And don't leave any more dead mice in the bothy. You super brat. Hey, pussycats. I like cats because they're smart and independent. That's the reason. I can bring the glass of whiskey night round again. It's safe. It's back to into the safety zone. So if you join me in the live stream, I'll really be kind of tasting this and talking about the distillery, where I think the distilleries are at, the prices they're charging, the strength of the brand, the weakness in the brand. I'll be going over that as part of the Q&A session in my live stream. In fact, I've got a live stream, Bothy Live, only available to subscribers, Patreon subscribers, coming up soon, along with extras. Anyway, let's focus on this. What are we smelling here? Well, we're smelling a single malt, Glen-Scotia, Campbeltown. Very old distillery. There's good casks going on in here. This is the double cask non-age statement Glen-Scotia single malt from Campbeltown, from a rather old Scotch whisky distillery that doesn't make much of a play on its history, but has a lot of history, serious history. This is bottled at 46%, and if you're prepared to get out your steampunker magnifying glass, you will notice on the last line on the back of the box, because that's where you've got to look, it says, and I quote, "Non-chill filtered, a true taste of Campbeltown." I'm glad they mentioned it somewhere. They don't mention that it's natural colour. I just wish they would, make it easier for the people who care about whisky. Tell us what we need to know. Tell us what distilleries know that we need to know to persuade us to buy. We want transparency. That's what we want. We want transparency in our labelling and cloudiness in the glass, particularly when we add water, because that is the true sign of non-chill filtration. So they describe it as rich and spicy. They make it clear in the front label it's a combination of fresh ex-bourbon casks and some Pedro Jimenez casks used as a finish. Does it work? In my opinion, it works pretty well. But there's a big added bonus feature I want to bring to your attention later in this review. So on the nose, ripe barley, real rich, ripe, zesty, cereal-driven malt notes that are delightfully infused with a very well composed combination of the soft vanillas and sweetness from ex-bourbon casks, which is definitely giving a sweeter nose, along with the crispness, more tannin, raisininess of the Pedro Jimenez casks in the finish. It's a good finish. It's a very dovetailed finish. So this isn't thrown together. For its relatively young age, it is very well constructed using quality cask investment. It really shows in the nose. I've not even got to the taste yet. And it's young, fresh, zesty, vigorous, slightly unripe, and assertive. Classic, actually, fresh single malt Scotch whisky. On the nose, I'm also getting some light pineapple and pear. I'm getting brulee, which is baked custard. For those of you who are who are not quite sure about your French cuisine. Rich, welcoming, substantial. It's the very antithesis to over-engineered, thin, excessively filtered 40% single malts, which probably cost more than this does, actually. One thing I must say about Glen-Scotia is the refreshing lack of tub-thumping marketing. We're not getting patronised, despite the fact that there are some real excellent versions of Glen-Scotia coming out from the distillery, and there are some which are competent, but they don't completely sparkle. But this is not unusual. This is what's called the situation of legacy casks. Now bear in mind that Loch Lomond, the owners of Glen-Scotia, were taken over by a new company just a few years ago, not that long ago, and it takes about a decade to sort out your stock. It really, really does. I know that they're putting an awful lot of work, an awful lot of effort, and an awful lot of enthusiasm into rejuvenating the brand, which is why we're going to see more of Glen-Scotia. We didn't used to see it. It was an invisible single malt distillery that nobody even visited, nobody talked about much because it was so far off the radar. That's all changed, and I am delighted that it's changed, because Glen-Scotia is one of Scotch whisky's excellent top flight signatures when it comes to single malt whisky identity and character and personality. It's really up there. First taste, just a tiny taste. Oh, gingery, sweet and sour syrup, grain syrup. It's almost a combination of shortbread and oatcakes. So you've got the sweet side of the grain presented primarily through the ex-bourbon cask influence, with the vanillas that it brings in. But the vanillas aren't particularly prominent because of the overlapping influence of the resinous, and it is slightly resinous, raisiny Pedro Jimenez casks. The finish is beautifully balanced between the two casks, the two styles of casks. So you really get the best of both, which is very successfully amalgamated into the first taste. It is super ripe. It is almost sweet, but there's sour, savoury, bitter notes, soft bitter notes. So this is particularly 46%. you're immediately just tasting so much more going on. It's not just an array of flavours, it's the sensation contribution is prominent here. This only happens with a confident, good quality, interesting, well-made whisky. Let's add some water to this. I'm going to add a full teaspoon. That's 5 millilitres. For those of you, if I ever say centilitres, it's a blooper. It's millilitres. Using my ladle, because the spoon's acting as a ladle. So I've dropped some water in. I'm looking now for a little bit of Scotch mist to appear, because it says it's non-chill filtered. However, I'll be waiting a while. In fact, here's what you get 24 hours later. Just take the lid off of this. So this is the glass that I poured 24 hours ago, and this is the glass I've just poured. Now you can see the difference. Side by side, right? You can now see that this has got the Scotch mist, and this hasn't. When you have the slow evolution of cloudiness, it means that there has been filtration going on, except they haven't chilled. In other words, they have partially filtered. So although it says non-chill filtered, there's still quite a bit of filtering going on. It's not raw single malt. I think the reason they're doing this is because this is one of their bread and butter malts. They need to sell this not just to the enthusiasts, but to tourists, people visiting the distillery, and people that are buying an airport who are guided by the fact that they want to see clear whisky. So I get it, I understand it, I sympathise, but I can clearly see the situation arising now that if distilleries increasingly have to cater with a special edition for the connoisseurs, for the real malt heads, the big buyers in times of recession, the continued buyers in times of budgeting, and really to try and cater to both is still working partially, but it's not completely working. It's deregulating and degrading the actual overall reputation of a brand. You see, Springbank are consistent. They're not chill filtering. Natural colour all the time. 46% no matter what. Or cask strength. That's the way Springbank work. We know it. And it's part and parcel of their reputation, which is second to none. I mean, it kicks Macallan's reputation way into touch. Macallan's for consumers that feel they're getting more when they feel they're getting a lot more when they're spending a lot more and they're not. With Glen Scotia, I think that would be a classic situation where a distillery brings out its gilt-edged edition. So it brings out still accessibly priced single malt for the connoisseur, separate from its basic range, but as a member of the basic range, this is a very competent single malt, very engaging, very interesting, and important to say it, I'm going to say it right now, it's really good value for money if you're buying in the UK. You can buy a bottle of this for £37. That, at 46%, I'm telling you right now, maltmates, that's seriously good value. It doesn't matter where you are in your whisky journey. If you buy a bottle of this, you're going to get a lot out of the experience. Sometimes it's not the real fancy bottles that do it for us in a little session. It's the jobbing, well delivered, voluminous, flavour led, sensation driven single malts at a really good price, which really impresses. And this is why I'm reviewing this in Ralphie Review 1031, because I'm not sure if I mentioned it at the beginning of my review. 1031. I'm mentioning this because this is, by any standards, for the price, a hell of a good single malt whisky. Taste with water. Big, sherry prominent, zesty. Oh, very fresh, sparkly, almost effervescent. Sweet and sour. The sour's complicated by that soft bitterness and even a kind of slight saline or salty note, briny note as well as it develops. You get the cereal with a background of soft pineapple, green pineapple, soft banana, and a little bit of peach stroke apricot in there as well. There's a slight nuttiness in the background, but it's very, very soft. A very understated almond note. It's absolutely full flavoured, very delicious. You can add more water and it doesn't seem to dilute the flavour. This is my second 5, that's 10 millilitres now. And I'm adding it now because when you add it now, you get the results, the release of flavour now. See, when whiskey's diluted down to 40% in the bottling plant before it goes into the bottle, you know, it's no wonder that it smells so wonderful at a bottling plant. And it always smells of whiskey because the dilution is driving off flavour and smell. Literally. It's driving off, it's diluting it because it's weakening the power of the alcohol to hold on to it. Which is why when we, at the point of pouring the whiskey from the bottle that's at a higher strength and we do our own dilution, it's all happening in the space of a couple of hours. And therefore, the flavours don't drift away immediately. They come off gradually over time. But we're there with our nose and our palate to appreciate it and enjoy it. That's a major reason for diluting whiskey. Now you can see the Scotch mist is just beginning to appear there in this glass. Probably because it's a little bit cooler here in the bothy today. But thoroughly enjoying this. It's young, completely unpretentious, unapologetic, interesting, engaging, quality spirit, full of flavour that's been enhanced by flavoursome cask maturation. So that the quality of the casks used, even though they're in palatage, which I don't agree with, but I'm not going to quibble here because look at the price, maltmates. In the UK, just look at the price and that will sell you on this. I really hope that as a result of this review, some retailers don't just see the opportunity to pump the price up. I'm telling you right now, retailers, don't take the piss out of this. Because when it gets, we're not going to call you out by name, but I'm going to tell your customers, if they see you price pumping on the back of my reviews, to stop buying whiskey from you. You're going to lose customers. Stop taking the piss. That's my message to some retailers out there. Of course, when it comes to taking the piss, look no further than Amazon. See the prices of some of the whiskey in Amazon at the moment. It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. And yet, come the end of the year, they will be driving down the prices. And to be honest, for the retailers selling on Amazon, I really don't think it's worth it. The retailers are far better building their own separate, reputable platform. There we go. That's me done. It's not even a rant, by the way. It's simply an observation. One more taste and then I'm out, Mark. Wonderfully syrupy. That's what you really jump on right at the beginning of the flavour. The syrupiness of it. Sweet and sour. Complex. Gingery in the development. Bit of pickled pineapple. Green pineapple goes to pickled pineapple. The ginger reasserts itself into the finish. Some soft tannins. That raisiny note just gives that lovely, enhances the malt in the development. For a young whiskey, it's showing a lot of maturity. So enough of me bumping on. Now let's give this a malt mark. I'm going to give it a good malt mark. I'm giving it 83 out of 100. You might think it's quite generous, but I review the whole experience. Right? I'm reviewing the bottle, but I'm also reviewing the fact that unlike some other single malts out there that are competent but grotesquely overpriced now for what they actually deliver, this is delivering very good value. And in 2024, value matters and gets acknowledged. So good on you, Glen Scotia. Delighted. I will remain a customer, definitely. And I'll be reviewing more Glen Scotias later on. Because when I look back in my timeline, I didn't actually review my first official bottling of Glen Scotia till August 2017. So many, many years into this channel's duration. I mean, my first one was about review number 90, I think it was. It was an independent bottling and it was really good. It's the only way you could find Glen Scotia was through the independent bottlers. And even then you could see what a damn good single malt it was. But, you know, I've reviewed Glen Scotia 11 times in my channel so far in the last 15 years, which isn't a lot. But I'm reviewing it more frequently now for a very simple reason, malt mates. We're just seeing more interesting, affordable, ticely presented whiskies coming out of this distillery. And there you have it. I can't say any more than that. So join me shortly for Ralphie Review 1031 Extras, in which I'm going to be talking just a little bit about the extras I do in my Patreon channel, just to introduce a wee bit more about that content, because I don't say too much about it. I tend to be quite reticent and I don't specifically advertise it, and I think it's time to just give it a wee bit mention. So that's what I'll be doing in Ralphie Review 1031. I'll see you there. Bye bye.